Kia ora everybody and welcome back to the Good Day Matrix. My name is Daz and I have the absolute privilege of sitting here today in Te Atatu with the amazing Cam. Good morning, Cam.
Awesome, good morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's great to be in my house. I woke up here. It's great to have you here. Thank you.
I'm just going to get straight into it. When you meet Cam, I got to meet Cam online a while ago now, and his energy just flows through the camera. And when we turned up today, that same energy is just evident in welcoming and kindness and just excitement for life. So very, very grateful to be here with you today.
Thank you.
Cam was born with cerebral palsy, and he is a man who does not focus on what he can't do, but he focuses on what he can do, which is pretty amazing. He's an award-winning speaker, he's an athlete, he's an innovator, he's a TEDx speaker who spoke about how simple words can change and inspire actions, which is so powerful. And he's incredibly tied up with trying to do fundraising for charities, which again is just something I adore. So thank you so much for your time today.
You're so welcome.
And I can't wait to talk all things wellbeing with you. So we talk about wellbeing with 5 pillars of body, mind, identity, community, environment. And so we'll just weave our way through there today and see where we land up. So we'll start with identity. So tell us about who you are and tell us about your whakapapa and what's got you to here.
Cool, well my name's Calkoen and I was born in Holland with cerebral palsy, so it wasn't part of the plan. Mum and Dad driving to the hospital and everything was going good until it wasn't going good, and the birth didn't go to plan, but you know, I was fortunate to have a great mum and dad who just from day one were, who do you want to be, you know? In fact, a few years ago when the world went a little bit gnarly with COVID and everything turned upside down, I asked Mum and Dad for the first time what decisions they made. At that point they heard I'd been born with cerebral palsy, and they said they stayed true to the dreams that inspired us to be parents, right?
Wow.
And so it was that dream of, if you want to play soccer, you play soccer. If you want to play cricket. It was a great environment, and it was an environment, I remember I had a tree house and it was bigger and it was more gnarly than any other tree house in the neighbourhood. And at that point I had calipers on my legs, I had a walking frame, and parents and teachers would come over for a day of the Calkoens and they'd look up at my tree house and they'd say, "Do you really let Cam go all the way up there? What if he falls over?" To which Mum and Dad would respond, "But what if it makes it to the top?" And there were some times that I did fall over, but for getting back up, I built resilience and then just went on to have a great childhood, great friends, great memories. There's nothing I changed from my childhood. Went for a bit of a gnarly time as a teenager. Being a teenager is pretty gnarly anyway. When you throw in a spice of cerebral palsy, it just gets a little bit more gnarly. Well, you think that's the reason? I don't know when to stop talking, but I could just keep going, but I know that this isn't a speech, this is a conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so what's led you to do all of the work you're doing now, like with supporting charities and going out and doing the talks that you do?
Yeah, well, one of the big questions I have is, like, Cam, how did you get to doing these cool things, climbing mountains, representing New Zealand in sport, and overcoming the challenge? And I've been able to hear that advice that people was giving me. So when I was a teenager, I got a letter from someone, and in that letter it said, "Difference is a good thing," right? And this was a guy I really looked up to, Jeremy Wells. He wrote me a letter. Mum had written something to him, and this is when he was on Havoc and Newsboy, and I loved that show, and at that time it was the only thing that made me happy. And so Mum had written the letter to Jeremy. I don't know what she said, but one day I returned home from a pretty crappy day at school, and next to the biscuit and the milk was an envelope from TV New Zealand. And inside that envelope, and I'll show you later, a 2-page letter from Jeremy, and it's a difference is a good thing, right? And if you look at someone that's been able to create a career out of television and set up the things that he's done, and it was those small words that inspired big actions. It was the small words of my best mate Teresa Bizzoni, that saw me being an athlete. It was the words of my mentor Billy Graham, not the American evangelist, but the Australasian boxing champion from back in the day.
Yeah.
But saw me reframe how I perceive my speech, and going from seeing it as an impediment to seeing it as an accent.
Yeah, nice.
So now when I speak all over the world, they think New Zealanders all speak like this. And I kind of thought, well, if those small words can inspire me, what small words can I do to inspire people?
That's massive. Shout out to Havoc and Newsboy. They came to my high school when I was at high school.
They
were really good dudes. Very, very good dudes. What a difference, Jeremy Wells. Well done. Those small things, small actions in a little bit of time.
Yeah, well, that's how the TED Talk came about, right? Of small actions to inspire, small words inspire big actions. Yeah. Because we live in a world where it's very much like actions speak louder than words, and they do, but we cannot everyone has that ability. When you're coming here, when you're at the petrol station, when you're, we go to our local coffee shop, and the other day we gave her a bubble gun, bazooka, right? Because we heard she loved it, and it was those small things and the words along with it, they just made a world of difference. And that's what we've got to do, because that's when you start building communities around you. That's when you start portraying who you are, and people see that. It's easy for someone to focus on the cerebral palsy, and I've got to go deep in myself in order to show something bigger than that.
That's massive. And it leads us beautifully into body, which is, you have a bit of a mantra about fit, healthy body, fit, healthy mind. So talk to us about that, because that's all part of it.
Yeah, so after the letter from Jeremy and after the words from Teresa, I got into my athletics. I'd always been into sport. I love sport, Growing up in New Zealand, you've got a Wellbeing box and you're like, I want to be on that, right? And so cricket, soccer, and then as I was getting older, it all got bigger and more competitive and a little bit more scary. And then I got into athletics at high school, and as I ran down that track, I wasn't going first, I wasn't going second, I wasn't going third, I was going last by a long way. But I heard people saying, go Cam, you can do it. And again, small words inspire big actions, right? And so I've been set the goal of being the best athlete that I could be. I went out, I found the best coach that I could find, because if you want to be the best, surround yourself with the best. And my athletics and my training and my commitment to being the best that I could be gave me a goal, and that goal gave me a sense of identity, and that identity gave me stuff to focus on when things got really dark, right? And so when there's that dark tunnel, it's that goal that gives us a little bit of light. And so that's why today when I speak all over New Zealand and throughout the world, is dream big, achieve more. Because if you haven't got that dream and that goal, you're going to forget about those words from Jeremy that says difference is a good thing, because you haven't got something to strive towards. You haven't got a direction to put it.
Yeah. It's like channeling children's energy, right? Like, it's where we put it and how we can direct. That's massive, Cam. That's massive. What are some activities that you do for your body that you can't live without, or some routines?
So going daily walk, getting up fresh air, going to the gym, and it's not to become like Arnie Schwarzenegger or whatever, but it's just to really look after this, because if I can push myself in the gym and get uncomfortable with doing stuff like a bear crawl, or I see people and I wonder, are you really pushing yourself in terms of, or are you more worried about what someone's going to think? And if we can use the gym as a place to challenge ourselves in terms of forgetting what people think, well, when we're out in the world, you can do anything. Every single day when I'm speaking in front of an audience, I've got to not be worrying about what people are going to think or say, because no matter how often you do it, it's a little bit scary. So I try to bring as many routines into my life that challenge that, and going to the gym is a good one, and then it also has the benefit of, just like everyone, I've got this one body, and I've got to make sure that I can keep saying yes to cool stuff in my life. towards the end of last year, I bent over on stage and I was like, oh, man, must be getting closer to 40 or something, right? And when I was walking around, we had a great holiday in the Philippines, and I was like, all the years of training that I did for my athletics in my teens and early 20s must be starting to wear off it a little bit. And so I was like, you know what, you just got to go out and do something about it, right? So I called on my old physio and I said, well, what do we do? And so we started doing Pilates. And
Nice.
I think that's just the thing of being able to listen to your body and not wait until you can't do something anymore. But as soon as you start feeling or noticing the signs that you're not quite where you want to be, well, it's up to you.
Yeah, and it's such an awareness thing too, right? Because I think we talked about at the time, we get really busy in our lives and we sort of just push some things we know we need to the side because we've got some stuff to do. But being able to pay attention and be self-aware to go, no, I know that I need this,
harder.
This. Yeah.
Like if you push it to the side too much, right? Because this thing's more important.
Yep.
That thing that was more important, so you're not going to do well.
Yep.
I was driving down, had a week where it was just back-to-back speeches, and by the end of the week, I was like, why am I not feeling what I want to feel? Why am I, why am I not feeling that energy? And I noticed because I'd put the fitness to the side and you notice it.
Yeah, and it's massive because you obviously with traveling around and doing that, it's harder to keep in routine. So it's how you sort of set yourself up. If I'm traveling, what am I going to do that will still take care of my body? And that's something we don't take time to think about.
But it's the mindset as well of going, well, actually, it doesn't need to be, it just needs to be something.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be that full program. It doesn't need to be the 1 hour. It doesn't need to be the double day if I can't do that.
Yeah.
It just needs to be something that goes for my fit and healthy body. I've got a fit and healthy mind.
Yeah. We will move on to mind now. And so you've got a mindset of doing your best to not care what others think of you, but that can also get really hard. So talk to us about how you manage that and what you try to help other people to see how you see the world.
Yeah, doing what I did this morning of having that attitude, right?
Yeah.
And making people feel good, going out to people when I was at school, and I had lots of friends, and people were sometimes surprised. They think that maybe I was a victim of bullying or a hard time. And I'd walk up to someone and I'd say, hey dude, what are you up to this weekend? And they're like, I'm going skateboarding. And I'd be like, I can't skateboard because my balance isn't as good as yours. I'd give people a compliment, I'd make them feel good. But I have my scooter, and on my scooter I can go wherever you go.
Yeah.
And we would. And so then you just focus on your two young people. And so when I go in front of an audience, it's about getting them laughing straight away, it's taking them on that journey. And, when people come up after and say, oh, my challenges are nothing compared to yours, I'm like, you didn't really get it. Because it's not about overcoming cerebral palsy, it's not about overcoming adversity, it's about we have these things in our life that can create challenges, and our perception on that is everything. And are you going to focus on that, or you're going to focus on the goal? And so even when it's a small thing like walking down the street, you can ignore someone and make assumptions, or you can just say, I hope all is good with you, and give them a smile. You,
when we caught up, you said that you're human, and sometimes you do wonder what life would have been like if you didn't be born with cerebral palsy. So talk to us about that and how you put yourself back into that mindset to be really confident about who you are and standing tall in that.
Well, I think because I've been reflecting on that, and I was like, I don't think I articulated that quite right. I don't think it was, what would I feel like if I wasn't born with cerebral palsy? Because I can't change this, right? I don't know. No one would even know. I had a guy at the end of a talk the other day, and he said, Cam, do you reckon if you didn't have cerebral palsy, your life wouldn't be what it is today? I'm like, well, it's kind of a stupid question from him. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
But what he's maybe looking for, and a lot of people are looking for, is there's got to be a reason for this guy's perceived success or awesomeness or attitude, and maybe we've got to have a challenge in order to see that great opportunity. But I've met incredible people, you've interviewed incredible people who have all the limbs and all the voice and every perceived privilege in the world, and they're creating awesome lives. So everything comes down to how do you see the world around you. So for me, it's more a question of what would life be like if I didn't have dreams, goals and ambition? What would life be like if I didn't have love? What would life be like if I didn't have humour? And there are some days when I feel that I don't have those things, and it's at those moments where I go, well, I can change that.
Yep.
Right?
That's massive.
If I'm not feeling loved, or I'm not feeling happy, or I'm waking up on a Monday and it's dark and it's cold, and I've just realised that, man, that tax bill's way bigger than I thought it was going to be, what can I do? And I can send someone a message and say, hey dude, you're awesome, thank you for being a friend in my life, you're so, give out those compliments, because chances are they feel the same about you.
Yeah, 100%. I have no doubt they feel the same about you. You're an energy ball.
And that's with everyone, right? Your friends are your friends, and we've got to look at our friends for that reminder and that reflection of this is who we are, There's that great saying of you are a reflection of the average of the people you surround yourself with, and hopefully you've got good enough people around you to remind you of that.
Yeah, and treasure them. Don't take, in our busy lives, don't take that for granted. They're special people, and we need to make time, not sort of use our small sparing time for them, but make quality time for those people. That's sort of the afterthought.
Yeah.
Now, you did something amazing, and honestly, it feels impossible to me what you did. You decided to take on Mount Kilimanjaro. So, talk to me about the motivation on that, and the importance of saying yes to things that come up.
So, man, it was so cool.
It was so cool.
It was so epic. I remember, you're climbing this mountain and you're closer to the moons and stars than ever before. It was like you could touch them. I was like, when someone said this was the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, I didn't realise you'd actually feel like you're in space. And so how that happened is I was at Kingsland meeting up with a great friend of mine who's a real adventurer. He's climbed Mount Everest, and he's written a few books, and he's done 7 pinnacles in 7 days and 7 marathons, and he walks in and we meet up, and 7 marathons in 7 days. So he's like a Greek god. Like when he walks in, you're like, oh man.
The world stops.
Yeah, the world stops. He doesn't need any coffee. He's just got everything he needs, right? And he said, Cam, have you ever thought about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro? And I was like, are you kidding, man? No way. I don't do that kind of stuff. I was a sprinter. I don't do long distance walking. I hate walking far. And I've never climbed a mountain. And but then, really quickly, the reasons for saying yes were way more awesome than the perceptions for saying no. And I imagine, how cool would it be if you got to the mountain and you could sing the Toto Africa song, like that all-time party banger? So that became the vision. The reasons for saying yes were way more awesome than the perceptions for saying no. But then I faced the fear of what happens if I lose motivation, right? Because I know I've said yes to stuff in the past, and life gets busy and distractions come up and all of that. But I was like, man, this is so cool. So I didn't tell heaps of people I was going to do it, but I contacted 20 people that inspire me, and I invited them on a trip of a lifetime. And those friends you were talking about, where you've got to keep in touch with those friends, and my friends, they inspire me more than anyone, right? And so I contacted all of them, and 19 of them said yes. Still one guy said no, right? Still one guy said no, he was like, I can do it another year. Next year COVID came along, right? He hasn't been able to do it. Work got busy for him. And so we started climbing it, and Yeah, it's 19,000 feet, so it's taller than Mount Cook. And day 3, altitude sickness was kicking in. My lungs felt the size of a grape. My head felt like a peanut. Been squashed by an elephant. I was vomiting every 25, 30 minutes. And every day there'd be helicopters landing on that mountain, taking people off because of altitude sickness. And I had to dig real deep of, do I stop or do I keep going? And there were a lot of reasons not to be up there. I'd never done it before. It was a busy time of the year. What about the work I was going to miss out on? Had a few injuries and niggles from my athletics. And doctors and physios saying, Cam, have you thought about the altitude and your cerebral palsy? And but we just kept doing it. And we got up there. And it was cool. Really cool. Really awesome. One of my mates is a big rugby fan, and we did the world's tallest rugby line out. So we got that in the Guinness Book of Records as well.
Did you?
Yep.
It's amazing.
So that was awesome. And we came, and that's all we did. We just flew up there. It took 20 hours to get there. The next day we started climbing. 5 days up, 2 days down, and I asked why. No, I didn't know. It did take quicker to come down because of this running down. But what happened is when we got to the top, we forgot about coming down, right? So all our focus and energy and vision and calculation of what to eat and what to drink had all been about getting to the top. And so we got up there and like, oh shit, you got any water, bro? No, I'm out. I'm tapped out. I've got no water. Got any food? Yeah, I got a bar. So between 20 of us, we were like sharing, not much water, sharing our bars to come down. And that was the hardest part, was coming down. Because you're way more wobbly, you're way more tired, you're way more fatigued. You've just had your biggest release of adrenaline ever. Like standing on that mountain was epic because you're just looking out. And
That's
it was
amazing.
an adventure, and I'm really glad I said yes.
Yeah. That puts all my adventures to shame, but it also motivates me to be like, and what's it like? So once you get to the top, do you almost not want to come down? Like you're like, is it?
Yeah,
just want to take 5 more minutes. You know, like 5 more minutes. I just want to cement this view in my mind forever.
Yeah, totally. And I had. So, can I tell another story about that? Is that cool?
Yeah.
So on the So each day you're climbing, and when you get into the kind of the final camp at 2 p.m. and you're going to start the final ascent at 12 midnight, right? Oh, wow. And I asked the guide, I said, why do we do that part at night time? And he said, well, if you had to see what you were going to do, you wouldn't want to do it. But more so it's about seeing the sunrise in the morning, right? And so they walked in and there's a camp. You're going to go at 11 p.m., not midnight, right? Because it's going to be a little bit challenging for you. We're not sure if you're going to make that part. If someone gives me an advantage, man, I'm going to take it, right? So I took to the mountain like a steam train, and I looked back, and my guide, he said, Cam, you want to beat all your mates up there? And I was like, yeah, hard out. I was like, most of them are here because of the invitation I put up. I had my really tough day on day 3. I know they're going to have their tough moments tonight. Yeah. For some of them, if they know that I'm just a little bit ahead of them, it might be another motivator to keep going. We haven't seen Cam yet. We've got to get up there. And so he looked up and he said, beautiful full moon. You don't need your light. Turn off your light. He said, you'll be able to see where they are, but they can't see where you are, right? And so we got up there and we ended up getting up there an hour ahead of everyone else. So we just held that time. It wasn't any slower, wasn't any faster. Yeah. It was right on time, right? And again, it's that thing of in life, we've got to know and understand who we are. We've got to trust this feeling inside because whoever you are, people are going to make assumptions, right? Of what you can and can't do, but no one knows you like you, and you get to write your story, and that's so cool, that's so exciting.
I love that line, you get to write your own story, and you know, this is just a chapter of the story, we keep building on it.
Yeah.
Amazing. You're amazing. You are
yeah.
becoming my role model really quickly.
Thank you.
We're going up Mount Kilimanjaro, whānau. All right, so we'll move into community. And so when we talk about communities, people often think, it's a standard community like a rugby club, netball club, or a knitting group, but community can be anything. It can be your work colleagues, it can be your family. So talk to us about the communities you're a part of.
Communities are my gym, my family, my friends here in Te Peninsula, and every other day when I'm stepping in front of an audience is about going on part of a community. Because again, if you can feel part of a community, that's when you start to build connection, rapport, and friendship. And so a few weeks ago, in fact it might have been just before you and I spoke, I was up at a boys' school and there were 1,500 boys in the school, right? And no matter how often you do this, speaking can be scary. And in the middle of those 1,500 boys, and they're like real close, like it's an auditorium, it's not like a far, there's 4, 5, 6 boys and they're laughing at me, they're pointing at me, some of them can't even look at me, and I'm thinking, man, this was a sick career move. I should have done something where I could just turn up, see the same people every day, stay in the same office every day, everyone knows Cam. But then that's not awesome, right? Awesome is about doing the things that's a little bit scary, nervous, but you get to the other side and it's the best thing you've ever done, right? And so I had to realise that what they're seeing is maybe something they're seeing and experiencing for the first time. So although I'm not feeling respect, I've got to give them more respect than anyone else in this room right now. So I kept channeling my energy towards those 4, 5, 6 boys. And at the end of the talk, everyone left the hall, they stood behind, and then some of their mates started joining them, right? And then there's 24, 25 of them walk up on stage. They performed a school haka, led by those 4, 5, 6 boys, right? And so not everyone's necessarily going to respect us at the beginning, but if we can respect every community that we are part of and everyone in it and realise that we're teaching, we're sharing, we're learning, at that point, awesome things happen, right? Yeah. And it was the coolest thing to just see that journey. And that's not just with kids, that's with adults, that's with all sorts. It's with all sorts. And there's something awesome about turning rejection into affection, and the reason in which we're maybe afraid of becoming part of a community is we're scared of that rejection along the way. When I started speaking and I looked at all these speakers in New Zealand, and I wasn't getting any speaking gigs, and I realised that they'd all achieved the pinnacle of sport, of music, of art, of communication, and how cool would it be if I made my pinnacle by speaking? And so I decided to go to New York City, the most competitive city in the world, and I didn't know anyone in New York, and I can promise you no one knew Cam Calkoen, but never underestimate the power of your communities, right? So I wrote an email to everyone I knew, telling them about my dream, and the bigger your communities, the more communities you have, the more communities you get introduced to. And I wrote to all of them, and I got to New York and I ended up doing 5 speeches for 5 massive organisations. Wow. I had 25 meetings with movers and shakers of America's speaking and entertainment industry, one of which is called the Washington Speakers Bureau. So these guys, the Washington Speakers Bureau is the biggest speaking agency in America. They're putting people into conventions where they're like 20, 30, 40,000 people at the whole convention, and I had the phone number of a top lady. It was an opportunity, 100%, but it was really scary because I had to make a phone call, right? As my first point of call, and that little voice in my head was on overdrive. Same voice that heaps of people hear, that get in the way of what they want to achieve. And I rang her up, and long story short, she said, I don't think it's going to work for you here in America. In fact, judging by your voice, I don't think it's going to work for you anywhere. And I thanked her for her time, and I asked myself, do I just stop or do I keep going? Do I believe that passion can bend perception? A few years later, I did a TEDx talk. I sent that TEDx talk to her. I got an email from her saying, we have an opportunity for you to work here in the United States of America. And we went from doing one speech a year to one speech a month, to one speech a week, to multiple speeches a week, not just in America, not just in New Zealand, but throughout the world. And some people say, Cam, when that lady rang you back, were you ever tempted to say no?
Yeah.
Piss off.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is, well, whenever you're wanting to make a team or a community, whatever team or community that is, not everyone can just walk into it, right? No one can walk into it. And so she's got to have her bar really high. This lady's getting hundreds, thousands of people every single day saying, I want to be a speaker, right? She could have possibly articulated her response to me a bit differently, but it was my responsibility as to whether I come back to New Zealand and I just never speak again, or if I start building something. And then it was my responsibility to keep going back to her and saying, hey, and this is where I am now. I know I wasn't where you needed me to be at the beginning, but this is where I am now. And so you build those relationships. And that, again, that's the awesome thing about that.
That's stunning. It's stunning from a mindset point of view, because so many, and I would be one of them, would be deterred by that and be like, instead of going, that's one person's opinion, you go, oh my goodness, the walls just fell down, the wheels fell off and it's over, like and you can get really deterred. So that's why it's those words, those things matter both ways. Positive things matter, but also those ones, how you frame that. No, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
Go and do some work instead of just, no, it's not going to happen for you.
Yeah.
It's really different, but how you receive that, and that's a mindset thing. That's who you are. That's amazing that you could frame that and go, is this the end of my journey of this? No, it's not. I'm going to dig in and make this work.
Well, that's the best thing that you can learn from your role models in life, right? Because whoever your role models are, whoever inspires you, they've had those moments.
Yeah.
I've read so many books where that's what it's about. I nearly gave up. Said no. Rejection, right? And then all of a sudden,
snowball.
Yeah, it happens, right? But you can stop and you can just go and you can do the average stuff, and you can easily go, well, my life's comfortable and maybe comfort is okay, and I don't need to be anything else. I felt like that when I was transitioning from being an athlete, so got to a point where my whole life had been athletics. Everyone I knew was an athlete. Everyone I knew was because of what I did. And then I got to a point where I didn't want to be an athlete anymore. But then I had to ask myself of my identity, and I didn't know what that identity was. And I went and met with a coach and a mentor of mine, and this is going to be a really scary conversation, I perceive, because this is someone that I'd met through my athletics. He gave me my first sponsorship and all of that. And we were walking around North Harbour Stadium, and he said, Cam, people support you for who you are, not what you do. And hearing those words was so powerful. And at that point I was like, well, my athletics was one part of my life, and now I'm going to go into this other part, which was the charity stuff at the time, and the fundraising and the speaking.
Massive role models. I think if you've got the privilege to be able to give somebody advice, be really mindful of what you deliver. That's my key message out of that. Anyway, we'll move to environment. So when we talk about environment, it can be anything from sustainability to home environments and work environments. But with you, I'd really love to focus on the environment of paying attention and being aware of the people who are there. So how can we look after people better in different environments that we're in?
Yeah, communication.
Yeah.
Talking. I still remember my intermediate school principal. There's so many gems from early in our life, right? And there's so many gems from life. We live in a society that's really focused on what are you going to do next? What are you going to do tomorrow? It's the number one question I get after the speech is, what are you going to do next? And I'm like, well, I've just spoken with you for an hour. It's not about what I'm going to do next. It's about what are you going to do with this, right? And I am about that community, and is important. And I had an intermediate school principal, and so I reflect on this. I get the lessons from it. And on our first day of school, he said, talk to me when you're sad, but don't forget to talk with me when you're happy. because he wanted to know what made us tick. And so in turn, he could teach us what made him tick. Respect for your school, respect for your environment, respect for your elders. And so learning and finding out the positive in people, what makes you happy, such a powerful question, right?
Yeah.
Even if someone's saying, I'm not having the greatest day, well, what would make you happy?
Yeah.
It's a bit like, well, what is your dream? And there's a lot of people like, I don't have a dream anymore. I don't know what makes me happy. And that is bullshit. Every single person will have that dream. Every single person will know what will make them happy. But it's we're taught or we learn how to put our perceived realities in a way.
Yeah.
So my dream is to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, but I can't walk properly. You know, I've never done anything like it before. I don't have the time to do all the training. We didn't do any training. We did 2 or 3 walks before we did Kili. That's all we did, right? So not letting those perceived realities get in the way of that dream. My, you know, dreams to travel or to entertain or to connect with people. Those were my dreams when I was a kid. I didn't say I wanted to be an athlete. I didn't say I wanted to be a speaker. But whenever those opportunities came up, I was like, well, if I do those good, I can travel, I can entertain, and I can connect.
Yeah, yeah.
So a dream can be what we want to be, or it can be what we want to do. We don't need to worry about that, but we need to let us know that is our dream. People go, I don't have a dream. Well, maybe it is to be rich, but they've told themselves that they can't say that. They can't have that as a dream. They can't have that as a goal.
We talk a lot about wellbeing, obviously, with different organisations. We were with a group the other day, and I asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how many people have done that? And, you know, a few had, but most hadn't. And I said, but what's alive in the dream now? So, for example, don't laugh at me. I wanted to be a fire truck. Not a fireman, I wanted to be the fire truck, and I wanted to be a teacher. And so now I can say that, no, I'm not a fire truck, but I did actually go and study teaching. But why did I want to do those things? I obviously love people, and I love talking to people and helping people and being useful. And so I'm doing those things, which is part of those dreams, you know, in different ways. And there were all these little penny drops going, I hadn't realised, but actually if I look at my career, I've chosen these paths, you know, and it's not the path of, you know, the fire truck, but it's all these things that are contributing to what probably was the value of it, of the people, or that you love animals if it was a vet, you know, like all those different sorts of things. And it's important to connect to that and know where those things come from, because there are motivators in us, even if we don't realise it, or dreams that are sitting there that we don't necessarily articulate.
And that dream can change format as well, right? So I was speaking at primary school and said, what's your dream? And people were like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a firefighter, I want to... And then someone said, I want to be a unicorn, right? And everyone kind of laughed at her, like, you know, what do you mean? So, and I spoke and said, well, like, that unicorn could take all different shapes as you get older, right? You may create a label or a brand and call it unicorn. So,
Or you can just be that friend that everyone's like, my God, she's the unicorn. You know, like that amazing person that just sprinkles sparkles everywhere when they come in, because they're just so like you.
But that dream, that goal is that's your visual to keep going towards that. So
Yeah, and not be too worried about the outcome of it, but know that, you know, it can take you in lots of different pathways. It's not a finite end goal to it. So true. We had a teacher at my school when I was in primary school, and he used to every assembly say, I am what I am and I do what I can. I can't say I won't, and I won't say I can't. Therefore won't becomes will and can't becomes can. I am what I am and I do what I can. And everyone laughs the fact that I still remember.
It's awesome.
You know, but that's one of those things that teach kids that, you know, turn no's into yeses or turn won'ts into wills. Like, how do we push what we think are our boundaries and see what you can do?
Yeah.
Our capability is pretty amazing. In terms of the words that you've heard over the years, who are some people, so we've talked about Jeremy Wells and some of your mentors, but what are some other people that have been involved to really help shape the trajectory of where you are today?
Just people what I call my giants in life. People who have known what it takes to dream, to believe and to succeed.
Yeah.
and then going up to them and just saying, hey dude, that was awesome, how did you do what you did?
Yeah.
And learning from that, and putting it into practice.
Yeah.
And making time to catch up with people, to connect with people. Yeah.
I think time is the most important thing, eh? The gift of time is pretty precious when someone gives it to you.
Yeah.
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 Which moves us brilliantly now. So we have a section we like to talk about called portion distortion.
Everything's been perfect, eh? It's just all set up. Boom!
Professionals, man, professionals. We know what we're doing. So we talk about portion distortion, and it's all about time, because no matter who you are, what you do in life, we all struggle with time, and we struggle with it in different ways.
Yeah.
So talk to us about some of the challenges you may have faced around time, and possibly some things you've done to overcome those challenges, or things you've tried that haven't worked.
Always experimenting, yeah. Like, I'm like, man, time's just going too fast at the moment. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And so I had a mentor of mine, and he'd always say, start the day with doing the most important things first. Yep. And the most important thing first isn't necessarily what's going to make you money. It's the thing that, unless it's off your mind, you're not going to be able to move on. Yeah. And so that's been a great thing when time has felt limited or restricted, to go, well, just what's the most important thing right now?
Yeah. And when you're talking to people, because we talk about joy and dread a lot, and there's a lot of things we do in our days that we sometimes dread or don't look forward to, and then there's those things that bring us joy that we often actually put on the back burner because we've got to do all these things that are just our business as usual stuff. So how important is it for you to do things that bring you joy?
Oh, it's like the fit and healthy body brings you a fit and healthy mind. So a joyful mind brings you a creative mind, and so it's finding that time in that day to go, man, this report was just jamming me, and I'm not moving. In fact, I've been in this room for half an hour and I've only written 2 more words, right? At that point, well, it's way beyond, but you've got to start going, okay, I've just got to go out and do that thing that brings me joy. Whether that's sending a message to someone, whether that's sticking on Snoop Dogg and just walking around like a gangster for a little while. But it's those things in life, eh? Yeah. And then going, at the end of the day, gratitude, so looking back on the day and going, what did I achieve today? Yeah. Oh, cool, and at the end of the year, what did I achieve this year? Because we can, time gets a bit blurry sometimes. And you're like, well, we always kind of just felt like we were in a bit of a survival mode, especially over the last 2.5, 3 years. But let's look at, well, we're still here. We've got good people in our lives. Yeah.
I read something the other day that says that gratitude is the opposite of depression. And so that's why it's so important to journal, or just to think about those things that you're grateful for. Even on the toughest day where you think nothing's gone right, there's some gems that sit there, and let's find those gratefuls, because that's the thing that can turn and lift us up.
Yeah. And surround yourself with it, right? You can watch the news and get a bit kind of like, oh man, this sucks. Or you could watch a TED Talk and be like, well, use that. How do you use that time to fuel what you're going to do? Yeah. Yeah, and don't beat yourself up. If you're sleeping, right? Yep. If you don't quite feel like going for the walk, but find something else. Find a way to go, okay, I'm not going to hate myself because I wasn't as productive as everyone else seems to be around me. Because there's a lot of sort of, you look up and it looks like everyone else is getting up at 4:30 to go to the gym and you're not. And if you tell yourself that, well, it's tough. Yeah, being kind to yourself. Talking to yourself like you would talk to a friend, and you wouldn't rip at them for not getting up at 4:30 to go to the gym. No. So we've got some quick fire questions for you now. What are your favourite books? I've got some of them here. Because I've read heaps about This Is Not How It Ends by Jihan, which is awesome. Like, we were reading this during lockdown, and it was all the stories of just people who, life could have been pretty hard, but they turned it around, and it helped him turn his life around. And it's just, I just love hearing people's stories. And then Zig Ziglar is one of the greatest speakers about I have learned from just through watching how he does stuff. And then the speech, speeches that changed the world was just one of I got that as soon as I started speaking, and I'd read all these different speeches by all sorts of people and start seeing how they stuck stuff together. And when I couldn't find it, but it was Roald Dahl's The Magic Finger. And I think it's really important to have books and stuff that is just giving us creativity, because sometimes I feel if I start reading a lot about different people, I'm the kind of guy that will go, okay, that's how life therefore needs to be, and if I'm not doing it that way, I'm not doing it right, and it will get in my head. And so these self-help books are great, and so but it's about just balancing that out with going, well, actually that worked really well for that person, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work that way for me. Just because, you know, I get lots of people going, oh, I know so-and-so who's got cerebral palsy, do you know that person? I'm like, no, I don't know that person. It's not those things that are what make our life.
What are 3 things you would take to a deserted island?
3 things. A pen, a paper to capture the creativity of it, and probably some water.
Nice.
Because that's what I learned coming out of Kilimanjaro. You need water.
Never scrimp on the water. I love it. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Toto, Africa.
Yes. Thought you were going to go for Snoop just to be mean to me.
We can do that. We can break into some karaoke here. We've got screens up on the camera. Drop it like it's hot.
Drop it like it's hot. What is one thing you want people to know about living with a disability?
Just the same thing as what is the thing about living life. Because living with a disability, I could be short, I could be fat, I could have a different colour, I could be a different ethnicity. Like for me, it's all stuff that could create challenges or could create opportunities, and perspective is everything, and perspective is power. That's it. Right. That's
perspective. Love that. What is your favourite board game?
Monopoly.
Yes. Do you have Monopoly wars? Does anyone get upset when you play?
The war of Monopoly is what gets my adrenaline going. It's like thinking, let's get competitive. I do a quick check on the room, who's here though, because man, I know that person's real competitive. I've
got a friend that I can't play with because he just dominates every time.
And there's always that one who knows a different rule as well, and you're like, come on.
The Monopoly debate begins. Look at this, we're going to start this now, this will air, and then everyone will jump in on this Monopoly fight and you watch. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Unity.
Yes.
Like, imagine walking out and imagine being able to just unite people, like just go, boom, we're connected.
I love that. That is the best answer I've heard. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever heard?
If you can do it here, you can do it anywhere. So that's what I got from my speaking mentor when he first heard me speak. And if it hadn't been for those words, no, I'm not going to say that, but those words helped cement the direction I wanted to go. And that's the thing with, like, what people take from life is that it's easy to go, there's a reason for this, it's because of those people or those schools or those dreams or ambitions. But it's a real chicken and egg for dreams and goals and aspirations. So people can say stuff, but rather than that necessarily being the reason, I like to see it as being something that just complemented what was going to happen anyway and cemented it.
Love it. Qualities you love about yourself?
Just being able to hopefully make people feel good and to see life. And I love it when a kid comes up to me and says, Cam, I want to be an All Black, and now I believe I can. Or for the grandmother in New York City who comes up and says, Cam, thanks for reminding me at 75 years of age I can still dream big. And it's just those things that I love and feel privileged to be able to do, of taking people on a journey that hopefully sees them seeing real opportunities and gives perspective on what is possible.
Yeah.
What is awesome.
What is awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been one of my favourite interviews, I think, ever. And there's so many key takeaways. And I think it's particularly around how you see yourself, how you choose your yeses and your nos, perspective, and looking at challenges totally differently and seeing the opportunity that sits there rather than just blockers everywhere. Because if we could all do that and unify and be kind to others, man, what the world would be.
Yeah, man.
So thank you so
So
much.
cool.
Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Ka kite.